Welcome back to the deep dive. We're the show that, rips the lid off complex documents so you don't have to. We dig in, pull out the key stuff.
And hopefully make it make sense without the academic jargon.
Exactly. Today, we are deep diving into something pretty radical. A full draft constitution for a proposed country, the Republic of Meritovia.
And this isn't just tinkering around the edges. It's a ground-up redesign. The sources behind this, they argue that traditional politics, multi-party systems, are basically drowning in corruption and chaos worldwide.
So this Meritovia idea is an attempt to build a state that's constitutionally immune to that, like a vaccine against corruption.
That's the ambition, yeah, to bake anti-corruption right into the foundations.
Okay, let's unpack this because honestly, the central idea sounds like a contradiction. We're looking at a design for a one-party democracy. How does that even work?
Well, that's the core tension, right? They're trying to merge democracy with meritocracy using this single-party structure, but also guaranteeing fundamental human rights.
And on top of that, creating economic rules that are supposedly unalterable, specifically to kill corruption.
Precisely. And to grasp why they'd even propose something so drastic, you really need the historical context the sources lay out. It's all about perceived failures elsewhere.
Failures of democracy?
Failures of how democracy was implemented. The forces contrast two models: the external imposed kind and the internal citizen-led kind. And they are brutal about the first one.
Right, the airlifted democracy critique. They mention places like Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah, huge sections on that. Trillions spent, decades of effort, and then collapse.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan, the sources point out the whole thing just evaporated in days once external support left.
Showing it never really took root.
Exactly. No indigenous support, no real structural integrity. And Iraq, well, the cost in lives and money, the instability, it just showed that holding an election doesn't automatically create a stable, self-governing nation.
So the argument is, you can't just drop democracy from a plane.
Pretty much. It has to grow organically from the ground up. Otherwise, you just end up with weak elites who aren't really connected to the people.
Okay, so that's the negative example. What's the positive one they use?
They contrast it sharply with Nepal's 19-day nonviolent uprising. Totally homegrown, nationally coordinated, led by citizens.
And it worked.
It worked spectacularly. Restored democracy, established a republic, a real people power moment.
Yeah.
But then the hope started to drain away.
The great betrayal part.
That's what the sources call it, yeah. The hope erosion. Instead of building on that national unity, the new constitution got hammered out behind closed doors.
In the living rooms of a handful of leaders, as they put it, not involving the people who actually led the change.
Exactly. Sidelining the very committees and citizens who'd made it happen. And that, according to the sources, just paved the way for the old problems to creep back in, especially corruption.
Leading to what they call syndicate politics. What does that mean exactly? It sounds organized?
It is organized. It's defined as this institutionalized collusion. A small group of leaders, maybe 2 or 3 main figures or families, who just rotate power among themselves.
So elections become meaningless.
Rituals, yeah. Rituals of syndicate politics. It didn't matter who won. The same corrupt network stayed in charge. Big contracts, jobs, even judge appointments, all just bargaining chips to keep the syndicate going.
Wow. So the system wasn't just failing, it was actively rigged by the insiders. Stagnation by design.
Pretty much. And that created the vacuum for the next generation to step in.
Gen Z, the digital generation.
Right. Educated, connected, and seeing their futures basically being looted by this entrenched elite. They weren't willing to accept the old ways.
And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Their revolt.
It was fast, leaderless, and incredibly effective. They managed to shake up and eventually bring down a government that had a massive 2/3 majority in parliament.
A majority built on that same syndicate collusion.
Correct. And because it was decentralized, coordinated digitally, there was no single leader to arrest, no head to cut off. It was like a swarm.
And the sources say this wasn't just local, it spread.
Yeah, they mentioned it sparking similar movements like in Peru. This idea that young people, disillusioned with corrupt elites, could actually force a systemic reset. It felt possible.
But then comes the but. The courage is there, the power to destroy the old system.
But courage alone cannot build the future. That's the pivot in the source material. Destruction is one thing. Building something stable afterwards is another.
You need organization to avoid chaos or just replacing one bad system with another.
Exactly. You have to transform that revolutionary energy into structure. And that's what the Meritovia Constitution is designed to be, that highly structured, maybe even rigid framework for organization after the fall.
Okay, so let's dive into that structure. Part 4, the political blueprint. What's the official nature of this state?
Article 1 calls it the Republic of Meritovia. Sovereign, democratic, and crucially, meritocratic. Sovereignty is with the people, but how it's run is dictated by principles in Article 2.
And those principles, justice, fairness, equality, the usual suspects.
Those are there, yes.
Yeah.
But 2 are really elevated. Meritocracy is the only basis for public service jobs and political roles, and the explicit anti-corruption principle.
So corruption isn't just illegal, it's fundamentally unconstitutional.
Yes, an offense against the very nature of the state. And that meritocracy principle leads directly to the most controversial part, Article 11.
The Meritocratic People's Party, or MPP, a single national party. Okay, alarm bells are ringing. How is that democratic?
Well, the drafters knew this would be the big hurdle. Their argument is that multi-party systems, especially in places prone to corruption, just break down. Chaos, horse trading, gridlock, corrupt actors can hide easily.
So it's a trade-off. They're sacrificing party choice to kill the chaos and corruption endemic to multi-party systems.
That's the explicit rationale, a deliberate choice. Structure over chaotic freedom. But of course, the immediate question is, how do you stop that single party from becoming the new corrupt syndicate?
Right. What's the safeguard? 2
main things. First, the Constitution says the MPP must be open to every single citizen. No exceptions. It's meant to be a national vehicle, not a closed club.
Okay, inclusivity is one check. What's the other?
The internal structure. This is where it gets really unique. Schedule 2 details the 11-11-11 fractal model of organization.
Fractal, like
Yeah.
patterns repeating at different scales.
Exactly. It's designed for grassroots control, but also scalable organization, trying to prevent chaos as you get bigger.
How does it work practically?
Okay, imagine the base level. 11 citizens in a local neighborhood form a council. Simple enough.
Right.
Their job. They have to unanimously elect one person from among themselves to be their representative.
Unanimously. Not majority. 11 people agreeing on one person seems difficult.
It's designed to be difficult. The sources say it forces real discussion, real consensus building, not just quick votes or factions dominating.
What if they just can't agree? Gridlock at the base level.
There's a mechanism. If they deadlock after a certain time, they have to pick 2 candidates and send the issue up to the next level, council for mediation. But the strong push is for that local unanimity.
Okay, so say they manage it. 11 people pick one representative. What happens to that person?
That representative then joins 10 other representatives, each unanimously chosen from their own group of 11 neighbors. So now you have a new council of 11 representatives.
Ah, I see. And they then have to
unanimously elect one person from their group to go up to the next level, say the provincial council.
And it just keeps repeating. 11 elect one. 11 of those elect one.
Correct. If you map it out, say 4 levels up to the national leadership, you've got over 14,000 citizens directly involved through these layers of unanimous consent.
So the idea is that anyone who reaches the top has passed through multiple filters of genuine consensus based on merit recognized by their peers at each level.
That's the theory. It replaces horizontal party fighting with this vertical, merit-based selection process. Structurally harder for one faction or a charismatic demagogue to just seize control because power has to flow up from these small, consensus-driven groups.
Okay, that tackles the internal party structure, making it meritocratic inside. But what about the actual elections? Where do the people vote if there's only one party nominating?
That's the second big mechanism. Article 12, the 2-candidate electoral system.
2 candidates.
Exactly 2. For every single elected public office, president, governor, member of parliament, mayor of the MPP, using its internal fractal process, has to nominate 2 qualified candidates.
And qualified is key here, right? Not just any 2 names.
Absolutely. The Constitution mandates vetting based on merit, integrity, public service record. Then, the citizens vote. They choose between candidate A and candidate B, both pre-vetted for competence by the party's grassroots structure.
So you lose the choice between multiple parties, but you gain a guaranteed choice between 2 competent, vetted individuals.
That's the trade-off they're proposing. Quality over quantity, perhaps. Competition is still there, but it's between individuals and their policy ideals, not between potentially corrupt party machines.
And to make that competition fair, they had to deal with money in politics.
Oh, absolutely. That's huge. The Constitution mandates public financing for all campaigns. All of it comes from a national election fund.
No private donations, no corporate money.
Strictly prohibited, unconstitutional. The goal is to completely sever the link between wealth and political influence during elections. Campaigns are meant to be short, focused on policy debates.
And term limits. to stop people getting too comfortable.
Yep, strict term limits are built in. Usually 2 consecutive terms for most big jobs like president or governor. MPs get a bit longer, maybe 3 terms, to allow for legislative experience, but rotation is mandatory.
So the system tries to ensure constant renewal with fresh, merit-tested people.
The whole political blueprint is about replacing multi-party chaos with disciplined, meritocratic selection and controlled competition. It's a very engineered solution.
Engineered, yeah. And you said earlier that this relies on more than just political rules. It needs economic foundations.
Exactly. That's the real bedrock, they argue. Part 2, the unalterable economic foundation. This is where they try to build the anti-corruption DNA.
Unalterable, like forever.
That's the intent. Article 4 and 26 state these 3 economic pillars cannot be changed, cannot be amended, cannot be repealed. Ever.
How can they guarantee that?
Yeah.
Couldn't a future government just ignore it? Pass a law?
The Constitution defines any attempt to change these pillars as treason. Any law trying to weaken them is automatically null and void. The Supreme Constitutional Court is mandated to strike it down instantly.
So the courts become the permanent guardians of this economic structure.
Yes, immune from politics, that's the claim.
Okay, so what are these unalterable pillars? Pillar 1.
The cashless economy. Article 5.
No physical cash at all.
None. The argument is stark. Cash is the oxygen that fuels corruption. Untraceable bribes, shadow economies, tax evasion, it all relies on cash. So mandate all transactions be digital, secure, transparent, traceable.
Wow, that's a massive shift. How do they ensure everyone can participate? What about people without easy digital access?
Huge challenge. Article 5 mandates the state must provide free, universal digital access and connectivity. Financial inclusion is a state duty. And critically,
Privacy, if every penny is tracked.
exactly. The Constitution demands independent data protection authorities separate from the party. Accessing your financial data requires a specific court order for defined reasons only. Anti-corruption investigations, tax collection, or criminal justice, not general surveillance.
Trying to balance transparency for the state with privacy for the individual. Tricky. Okay, pillar 2.
State ownership of banks, Article 6.
Nationalized banks, all of them.
All core financial institutions. Private banks are seen as vehicles of crony capitalism, speculation, and instability, so the state takes over.
But run by whom? Political hacks.
No, that's the firewall. Managed by independent professional boards, appointed strictly on merit and expertise. And, crucially,
Yes.
these state banks are constitutionally banned from making a profit beyond covering their own operational costs.
No profit motive.
None. Finance becomes a public utility, not a source of private wealth accumulation. Power shifts from private cartels to accountable public bodies.
Which leads directly into pillar 3, doesn't it? If banks aren't profit-driven.
And you get to pillar 3, zero interest rates, also Article 6.
Zero interest. On loans, how does that even work?
It abolishes interest entirely. The argument is that interest fuels debt cycles, inequality, speculative bubbles, and usury.
So banks lend money for free.
Not quite free. They charge administrative fees to cover the cost of the transaction, the paperwork, the risk assessment. But no interest profit on top. Cost recovery only.
So the cost of borrowing for, say, starting a business or getting an education or buying a house becomes incredibly low.
Effectively zero beyond the admin fee. It's designed to channel capital into productive parts of the economy industry. Education, healthcare, housing. Not speculation.
And who decides those priorities? And stops the state banks just giving easy money to friends?
That's the job of the National Financial Oversight Authority, the NFOA. Another independent body. They supervise the banks, enforce lending rules set by Parliament, and transparency is key. All bank reports, audits, everything must be publicly available.
And if someone tries to run a private bank on the side or charge hidden interest?
Major economic crime. Confiscation of assets, prison time. The system is designed to make profit-driven finance structurally impossible.
Okay, cashless state banks, zero interest. That's a fundamental rewiring of an economy. What's the payoff for the average person, according to the sources?
The payoff is that all the money not leaking out through corruption, private bank profits, and interest payments becomes available for the state to spend on the citizens.
Freeing up massive resources.
Exactly. Which allows them to constitutionalize social rights in Part 3. These aren't just political promises, they are funded legal guarantees because the economic structure supports them.
And these guarantees are broad.
Very broad. Article 8 and 9, we're talking free, compulsory, and quality education at all levels. Primary, secondary, university, all free.
University too, that's huge.
And mandated quality standards across the board. Then there's free, universal, quality health care, everything from checkups to major surgery, and a specific clause. No one can ever be denied emergency care.
What else?
Access to justice, a fully funded public defender system for free legal help in civil and criminal cases. Because justice shouldn't depend on your bank balance.
And basic needs.
Guaranteed rights to adequate housing, food security, and that universal digital access we talked about earlier. Parliament must allocate sufficient funds for all of this, perpetually.
And crucially, these services can't be privatized.
Explicitly forbidden by the Constitution for core services like education, health, water, energy. Keeps the profit motive out. It's the social contract. Accept the economic rules. Get absolute social security in return.
It sounds very top-down, very structured. What about individual freedoms and duties?
Article 7 guarantees the standard freedoms. Speech, press, with limits only for national security or incitement, religion, assembly, privacy. But Article 10 lists citizen duties too.
Like what?
Duty to vote is actually compulsory, with minor penalties if you don't without good reason. Duty to obey the law, protect the environment, and uphold meritocracy, honesty, transparency. It's a two-way street.
Okay, so we have the structure, the economics, the rights. But who enforces all this? Especially the anti-corruption part if there's only one party. Part 6, the accountability institutions.
This is critical. The main weapon is the Anti-Corruption Authority, the ACA, Article 19.
And it's truly independent.
Designed to be. Constitutionally separate from the MPP and the government. Nationwide power to investigate, prosecute, monitor wealth of officials, protect whistleblowers. Its powers are described as immense.
But wait, if it's that powerful, couldn't the single party just use it to crush internal dissent? Purge rivals? That's a classic authoritarian move.
A very real danger, and the sources seem aware of it. The safeguard proposed is that the ACA's leadership isn't chosen by the politicians. They're appointed by a supermajority consensus of the Supreme Constitutional Court judges.
So insulated from political pressure.
That's the idea. Plus, its budget is constitutionally fixed, like a percentage of GDP, so the party can't starve it of funds. And there are severe penalties, constitutional penalties, for any ACA official caught abusing power for political ends.
Okay, so the independence mechanism relies heavily on the integrity of the top court. And the penalties for corruption itself.
Career ending. Immediate removal from office, confiscation of all illegal gains, and the big one, ban from holding any public office again for at least 10 years.
A 10-year minimum ban. That's a serious deterrent. Cleans the system out.
That's the goal. Ensure compromised people are permanently removed from power, no matter how high up they are in the MPP.
And other checks and balances. Elections. Audits.
Yes, the standard institutions, but strengthened. An independent election commission, IEC, runs the elections and, crucially, enforces those strict public campaign finance laws. No funny money.
And the money trail.
That's the Office of the Auditor General, OAG, Article 20. Unrestricted access to audit all government bodies and the state-owned banks. They ensure the banks are truly running cost recovery, not hiding profits. Full public transparency.
And the press still has a role.
Article 21 guarantees press freedom, independence, plurality. No censorship allowed except for tightly defined national security reasons. Journalists are protected from revealing sources unless the Supreme Court orders it in extreme cases. The press is positioned as a vital watchdog, even with one party.
So, putting it all together, the Meritovia blueprint isn't just tweaking things. It's this intricate machine designed to make corruption structurally impossible, or at least incredibly difficult.
Right. It connects the political structure, the one-party, two-candidate system, the 11-11-11, directly to the economic structure, the three unalterable pillars, and uses the resulting efficiency to fund universal social rights. It's all interconnected.
And locking it all down with that unalterable clause for the core economic and political framework, the Bill of Rights, the three pillars, the one-party system itself, all meant to be permanent.
It reframes corruption, not just bad behavior to be punished, but as systemic disease requiring permanent constitutional cures baked into the economy and the political process.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a really challenging question, doesn't it? The sources clearly argue that our current multi-party systems are failing, breaking down under the weight of chaos and corruption fueled by private money.
They paint a grim picture.
So Meritovia offers a deal. Give up the wide-open choice of multiple parties, accept this highly structured, merit-based system with only 2 vetted candidates per election. In return, you get stability, competence, guaranteed social welfare, and a system constitutionally designed to be corruption-proof.
Permanently corruption-proof, according to the design.
So the question for you is that a price worth paying? How much political choice, as traditionally defined, would you trade for a guarantee of functional, stable, corruption-free governance and cradle-to-grave social security?
It forces a really uncomfortable reevaluation. What is democracy ultimately for? Is it the maximum number of choices, even if they're flawed? Or is it competent, accountable governance that delivers security and opportunity, even if the choice mechanism is more constrained?
That tension, the messy freedom of choice versus the structured guarantee of security and integrity, that's really the provocative thought at the heart of this Meritovia blueprint.
A fundamental question about what we want from our political systems.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back next time.